it says live on Facebook.
All right, we're live.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hello. I am joined today by Rabbi Joanna Tract, chaplain and clinical ethicist at JFK Medical Center and Palms West Hospital in Boynton Beach, Florida. And among all those other things, she is also a friend and classmate of mine from our days at Hebrew Union College. And it's really a pleasure to have her speaking with me, or my having the opportunity to talk with her this afternoon. So first of all, Joanna, how are you?
Good. It's so wonderful to see you. We started our journey together in Israel for rabbinic school 1994 and spent 5 great years together. And it's so nice to see you again, even from afar.
Yeah. And Zoom definitely has given us that opportunity. So
yes,
I'm grateful for that.
One good thing that can come about from it.
Yes, for sure. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
I am a chaplain. I worked in a synagogue for 7 years when I first came out of rabbinic school, and then I went into hospice work for 5 years. But for the past 9 years, I have been working at 2 different hospitals, at JFK Medical Center and also at Palms West Hospital. And at those hospitals, I serve as a rabbi and a chaplain, and also a clinical ethicist, which means that any ethical issues that come up at the hospital, if there is a question of which way to go, then it will come to my committee, and we serve as the mediator between the doctors and the staff and the families and the patient to make sure that any ethical issues are taken care of. For example, whether it be who is the proxy, if somebody can't make decisions for themselves, if there's a disagreement on that, then we would come in and help solve it. So the most part of my work is as a rabbi chaplain, and I travel around and visit patients, whether they be in the whole hospital or in the children's hospital. And also there is a behavioral health unit that I will meet with patients as well. So it's been a great 9 years. I love the work that I do. So I'm grateful to do it.
Yeah, great. I'm wondering though, what you are seeing in the field now as a result of COVID-19 and how that's changed your work.
It has been a huge change in the past, I would say 6 weeks or so. Life has come to a halt for everybody, but it has only increased at the hospital. We've entered a sort of crisis mode at the hospital where everything is different. There are no visitors that are allowed. We have a census of COVID patients that started off high and is starting to sort of taper off a little bit, but we don't know what the future will bring. But it has changed chaplaincy for me, and I know for other chaplains, in that I used to be able to go and sit bedside with patients and hold their hands and sit with family members and talk to them and help them get through whatever issues they're dealing with, whether it's anticipatory grief or it's fear. But now, since visitors are not allowed in the hospital, and because it is troublesome for us to go into the hospital knowing that COVID is all around, there is the sense of not wanting to waste the masks and the gowns and things like that. So I don't go into the hospital now, but I am part of a crisis care team, a sort of palliative care triage team, that every day we have a call with ICU doctors and social workers and some clergy, and we hear what the ICU doctors are having to say about COVID and the patients that are there. And we help communicate with the families who are not able to come into the hospital. So the ICU doctors will tell us, this is how many patients we have, this is what's going on with each of the patients. We need help talking to the family about whether we should have, if the person needs to be on a ventilator or not, or the status of the patient. The hard part has been watching the stress of the staff, the overwhelming sort of stress on the doctors and nurses. They feel that they are in this island of where nobody else is around because they're locked in this isolated unit, and they are not getting as many wins as they're used to. They're used to healing people. And with COVID, they're still trying to figure out every part of it. Unfortunately, there have been several deaths, and it's very painful on the staff. It's also incredibly painful on the families and also on the patients, because the patients are now in isolated rooms. The doctors and nurses go in with masks and gowns and whatnot, but they can't stay there. They can't sit there and hold their hand. They can't have families sitting there holding their hand. And we see patients that are dying and they're alone. And it is terrifying to think of that as the patient, but also as the family member thinking that their family is by themselves. I've had patients or family members that I call and talk to, and they've told me of stories where they bring their loved one to the ER, and then they go to park the car and they come back in, and the patient, they figure, oh no, they may have COVID, and they sweep them away to sort of an isolated area, and the family member quickly says goodbye. And that could be the last time, and in many cases is the last time that they'll see their loved one alive. Because once they get to the hospital, there's very much a sense of triage of trying to figure out, does the person have it or do they not have it? So I've dealt with so many family members who then go home. They're in their own quarantine because they may have COVID as well. They're home by themselves, and then they can't be with their loved one. In Judaism, we're so focused on giving chicken soup, making somebody feel better. And if you can't do that for your loved one, for your spouse or your child or whatever it may be, it's devastating. And so one of the things that we've had to do in this new chaplaincy world is sort of telecommunications, is trying to connect the family members with their loved one in the hospital. That sounds easy, but it's not, because at the beginning, we didn't have all of the technology we needed. So a nurse would need to go in and hold the phone up to a patient, but the longer the nurse is standing there, the longer that the nurse is being exposed. And so they have to very much calculate how much time they're going in, what they're going into the room for. And the patient also may not be responsive. So as much as the family member wants to sit there and see the patient may not be responsive. So now we have more technology that's come in where we're able to bring an iPad in and it stays on a stand, and the patients can talk to the family, or the family can see the patient for a longer period of time. So it's grief and that we're used to, but in a crisis situation.
Wow, that sounds heartbreaking, just to hear about all those changes and all of the necessities that are coming into play as we isolate and stay self-isolated. And I'm sure it's making very difficult situations in normal circumstances even harder and more challenging. What can families be thinking about as they prepare to plan for care for their loved ones?
I would say that if it's in regards to a family member that may be in the hospital, to definitely get in touch with the chaplains or the social workers or the nurses to say, listen, I can't come into the hospital, but how can you help me connect to them? Can I make a video? We've done that several times where family members will make videos, and can you show the video to my loved one? Or can you help me FaceTime? Or can you get a message across to them? Or can you play music for them? That's a way that you can do something so that you feel that there is a connection. The bigger question, though, what families can do is to talk about what the patient's wishes are. As a clinical ethicist, I see so many times, and we're dealing right now with several different cases of patients that don't make their wishes known. And we have to, with the family, guess what the patient would have wanted. When the family becomes the proxy, we have to say, what do you think your loved one would have wanted to do? And sometimes they know, if they have an advance directive, if they have a living will, if it clearly states what they want, then the doctors can do that. But when it comes to an emergency situation where a decision has to be made, do we do this or do we do that? Do we do CPR? Do we do compressions where, we're going to potentially break the ribs of an 85-year-old woman with dementia who already had several comorbidities, but now has COVID? In other words, are we trying to get her back to the baseline? What is our goal in doing that? And if a patient makes their wishes known, it helps the family, it helps the doctors. There are also times when patients make their wishes known and the family chooses to do something else. And that becomes a legal issue, because patient may very clearly have stated, or at least alluded to, I want this. But then when the family member comes in and says, no, I don't want them to die, we're going to do everything possible, it puts everybody in a difficult situation. And so that's one of the things as an ethicist that comes up, that we need to figure out what the moral thing to do and what the legal thing to do. So if you can, before you get to that point, make your wishes known, it will make it easier on everybody. And you won't have to go through unnecessary things that you don't want to go through. I mean, if you don't want to be on a ventilator long term, if you don't want CPR, if you don't want artificial nutrition, if there's no hope of improvement, do you want all these things? Do you want to live like that in a long-term facility for an extended period of time? If you can make your wishes known, then the family doesn't have to guess.
Yeah, difficult, but very important conversations.
Yes, absolutely. It is strange to bring those conversations up, but it's a lot worse when a doctor calls you in the middle of the night and says, listen, this patient is going to code or is going through a code, their heart's stopping, what do we do? And to have to make a decision like that, sorry about the phone, to have to make a decision like that on the fly is stressful. And then it has repercussions. Once somebody is on a ventilator, then it becomes, well, can I take them off the ventilator? Can I do that to them? But, it is a hard conversation, but better to be had under good circumstances.
Yeah, are there resources that one could look towards to help with those discussions?
For sure. There is something online, I believe it's called 5 Wishes, and it's a whole packet that goes through and explains what each of the choices are that a patient may have to go through. And you can outline, you write in the booklet, things that you want, things that you don't want. Then I would also, in addition to that, go to a lawyer and have written up a legal will, no matter what age you are, where you say, listen, I would want this, I wouldn't want that. And then have that on your person, have that accessible to your loved ones. Have somebody be a healthcare proxy for you, because you need to have somebody that can make decisions for you if you can't decide for yourself. Now in Florida, there's a set list of who becomes a proxy if it's not clear in the paperwork. So it goes, first it's spouse, then it goes children, then it goes, whatever. It's a whole line. And so if you can clearly state, this is the person that I want to make decisions for me, then again, the doctors don't have to guess, and the right person's making the choices.
Right.
So I would, definitely make your wishes known. And if you can do it in a legal setting, even better.
Great. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you would like to share with us?
I'm just grateful to do the work that I do. It is definitely meaningful, and to know that I'm able to help families connect with each other in a time when we are so isolated from each other. It's a great feeling. I just want to say that I'm thrilled to be able to see you, and I know that your community is lucky to have you, as I know from our time in rabbinic school what a treasure you are. So it's a pleasure to see you.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Joanna. But also, I sense that the families you work with are lucky to have you,
Thank you.
and to guide them through this really challenging time. And
Thank you.
you've given us some really good information about how we can make that time perhaps easier for our loved ones.
Absolutely, absolutely. I work with a fabulous priest. His name is Father Gabriel, and together we are just there to make what's a horrible situation that much easier, just a little bit. So we're grateful for what we do.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, for me too.
Thank you.
I can't tell.
I think we're off now. It says.
Does it say we're off?
Oh no, now it says live on Facebook still.
Okay, I'm gonna